Hello again, everybody. Michael Ware with the IFC's Warrior Wednesday program. We've got with us Joseph Greenlee, and he's the litigation director for NRA ILA. And we spoke just 1 second before we hopped on here, and he's got a long title. I don't know, what do you call it? Is that a $24 handle or something like that, Joseph?
Something like that.
Okay, all right. Well, he said skip it, pare it down to something very short. So we did. Here we go. Now, we wanted to have him on today because, and I've been wanting to do this for a while, and my apologies. And we have spoken with people out here who have asked you to come on the program before, and we weren't able to get it worked out. And this time we did. So thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Let's delve right into it. Walk us through real quickly. It's my first question. Walk us through real quickly, Joseph, what NRA ILA is for anybody that may not know, and where you fit, and then how do you take care of litigation, and how do we weave these pieces together? Go ahead, will you?
Sure. And first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be here. So NRA ILA, it's the NRA Institute for Legislative Action, and we're really just committed to being active, as the name says. We're on the ground across the country, getting people together, helping to get them enthused to support and vote for policies that, advance the right to keep and bear arms. We're in the state houses across the country and, at the Capitol. Okay. And then I specifically focus on, and there's some international. I mean, it's amazing what all that NRA does, but I focus on litigation and the type of litigation where if your state passes a gun control law that violates the Second Amendment, then we're the ones, or the state constitution, then we're the ones that run into court and sue over it and say this is a violation of our members' constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I wanted you to kind of walk us through that real quick. Now, let's do this. What is a bird's eye view of how some case originates, plaintiffs, if there's a need? How do these things start off? Because I'm honestly not very clear on that. I'm a little in the dark as to how that works.
Yeah, that's a good question. It varies. Just about every case is a little bit different. Sometimes we'll see a bill moving through and, ILA fights to stop it, but we can't win every time. And so a bill becomes the law, and then we see it coming. So then we start preparing a lawsuit. We'll find people who want to sue over it and fill out the complaint and, write everything and explain why this is unconstitutional, decide where we should bring the case and all that. And then other times somebody could come to us and say, maybe a member reaches out and they're like, hey, this happened to me, can you guys help? And it's like, yeah, certainly. It's actually a good argument for a good idea for a case there. And then sometimes it's just talking with, I'm good friends with, for example, Adam Crowd at Second Amendment Foundation, Bill Sack over there, Costas, and Brandon Combs, Cody Wisniewski at FPC. And sometimes we'll just talk on the phone, especially Brandon and I we'll have like 3-hour conversations, just kind of bouncing things back and forth. And then sometimes, not always, but we'll come up with a good idea for a case out of those conversations, or maybe several cases. And then we decide when is the appropriate time to pursue those. So there's a lot of different ways that these things come about.
So let's say that you guys, it doesn't matter whether it's NRA ILA or you're collaborating with other Second Amendment groups, where there is or needs to be a suit, and you're looking for plaintiffs. What makes a good plaintiff? Do you have to actually be able to say, I've been wronged by this posture, this policy, this regulation, code, whatever it may be, and I've been wronged in demonstrable ways, or what makes for a good plaintiff? How do you make those choices?
Yes. So you need somebody who's actually been injured by the law. They have to have suffered a concrete injury. So, somebody who wants to buy this banned arm and they're prohibited by the law from doing so. Perhaps somebody who owned one and now they have to give it up because there's no grandfathering clause in the law that allows them to maintain possession. Or maybe it's somebody, who was arrested, charged for violating a law that we prefer law-abiding, citizens who have always been on the right side of the law and wish to stay that way. But all of a sudden the state's saying, actually, what you've been doing for whatever years, decades, all of a sudden now you're in the criminal class, even though you've never actually committed a crime. So those are typically, and then it depends on a case-by-case basis again. So of course we're challenged to restrictions on adults under 21. You have to find an adult under 21. You can't have a 26-year-old run in and be a plaintiff on one of those cases. And I suppose that's the gist of it. It's got to be typically a law-abiding citizen with the best intentions, clean record, and they just want to avoid becoming a criminal for what is conduct protected by the Second Amendment.
So just so we can get this out there, because I want to make sure that people understand this, actually two quick things. So this is my quick pitch. I'd sure like for people to go to iowafc.org. That's our site, and become members and support us. I'd also like for those people to check out the Trusted Partners page so they can support the people that support them. There are discount codes and tangible goods associated with membership, and we're all very appreciative of that. So let's do that. But I also wanted to talk about NRA for just a second, because as I mentioned to you just before we popped on here today, a good number of people that come through my shop, a good number of people that are my friends, even NRA members, don't understand that you, Joseph Greenlee, and ILA, the Institute for Legislative Action, they don't understand that your NRA member dues don't go to the funding of ILA. It's a completely separate organization. It's a completely separate nonprofit entity. And your contributions that you make directly to ILA is what fund the place. So, I mean, I have people say, well, I don't give to ILA. I pay my dues every year. I'm like, no, dude, that is not how this works. and so is there anything that I'm missing there? Anything that we need to add? Because I'd sure like for people to understand that ILA is funded through contributions that are direct.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that you can donate to ILA if you specifically like seeing the action that we are taking in defending your right to keep and bear arms. You can donate directly to ILA, and you can even specifically donate to a specific cause. So, for example, we challenged the New Mexico waiting period law, and as I recall, some people wrote in and said, I want that, here's $50, whatever, but I want it put towards this litigation or challenging this bill when it becomes a law, that kind of stuff. So you can be pretty specific about it. And
I guess I never thought about earmarking. That's interesting. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but we're very grateful, for donations. We can't do the work. Typically our plaintiffs are not, paying us. Our role is to come in and help them when their rights are being threatened, violated. And so we really depend on donor money and the generosity of members and who, want to see laws struck down, either in their jurisdiction or somewhere else across the country.
Okay. So far you and I have had a quick little dialogue, and I've lobbed you some pretty easy softball pitches. I don't know if this would be considered a fastball or not, but is there any way that you could help me understand this ridiculous pistol brace thing? I mean, and keep in mind, you and I are recording this not on the day that it's going to publish. So I'm hesitant to have you go to what's going on today because it may change tomorrow. But just for the Cliff's Notes version for people listening, what the heck is going on with pistol braces from cradle to grave, so to speak?
Sure. So was under the Biden administration, they promulgated the pistol brace rule, which classified brace pistols as short barrel rifles and treated them as such. And then we challenged that in court, actually in two different cases. We had one out in Texas where NRA was a party and got an injunction preventing the rules enforcement against NRA. And then also one in the Eighth Circuit. It started in North Dakota, got up to the Eighth Circuit, and that one got enjoined as well. So these were successfully challenged, and there were other ones. FPC challenged it, and Mock versus Garland was the name of the case.
Yeah, there you go.
And successfully at the Fifth Circuit. So this thing was clearly unlawful. The courts ruled the ATF exceeded its authority by promulgating this rule, And so eventually the government said, you know what, this is unenforceable. They conceded this is unenforceable, vacated the rule, said we're not going to fight for this anymore. So it seemed like a great win at the time. But then now the ATF is saying, well, we're not following the rule. We're not acting under the rule, but it's still our preferred interpretation, or at least this is what they're indicating. And they did apply under the Biden administration. They applied this interpretation in the case. They said, yes, the rule's been vacated, but you know what? It's still, we're going to follow that same understanding of the pistol brace rule, that brace pistols can be, in certain circumstances, treated as short-barreled rifles, because we do believe it's the best way to interpret the law. And now it appears, based on a recent filing, that they're going to take that same approach in certain cases going forward. It's hard to tell exactly what they're going to be doing, but I hope they will recognize that the similar action has been ruled unconstitutional, and that all it does is make life difficult, maybe ruin the lives of well-meaning, law-abiding gun owners.
So wouldn't it be nice if there was no nonsense associated with an SBR or a suppressor, aka silencer, and SBS or AOW? I mean, are you working on that in any discernible fashion?
Yes, I'm glad you asked about that. So we actually have four lawsuits on these issues right now. So I guess the first three I should mention, we have kind of a three-pronged attack to the National Firearms Act's registration requirements for suppressor, short-barreled rifle, short-barrel shotguns, and what the NFA defines as any other weapons. And we challenge these in Texas, Missouri, and Kentucky, which are each in favorable circuits. Nice thing about challenging federal laws is sometimes, you're not stuck in the Ninth Circuit, where we tend to often be in litigation. And so after the President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act was signed into law and the tax on these items was zeroed out, we think there's no longer any justification for requiring the registration of these arms, because the registration was passed back in 1934, and it's always been upheld since 1937 by the U.S. Supreme Court as an extension of the taxing power. The court and Congress, when they passed it, said, well, we want to make sure the registration is necessary to make sure we know who has paid the tax. Well, now there's no tax, so that's no longer a justification. You don't need registration to see who paid a $0 tax. So we're challenging those registration requirements in each of those courts. And we also, for what it's worth in those cases, we have Second Amendment challenges to suppressors and short-barreled rifles, because those are the most obvious. I think they're all protected arms, but we selected those two because they're just the most undisputably protected. They're very common. The Supreme Court has held that arms in common use are protected by the Second Amendment. And there's something like 5 million suppressors out there lawfully owned now. Yeah. They're almost never used in crimes. There's roughly a million short-barreled rifles, virtually never used in crime. Not that the use in crime, it isn't relevant in a Second Amendment analysis, but sometimes courts will bring it in and make it relevant. But to the extent it is relevant, these aren't criminal weapons preferred by criminals. They're weapons preferred by law-abiding, peaceable Americans who just want to exercise their rights. So we have those three challenges. They're all in the district court still, although they're moving along quickly. So I think certainly by the end of the year, we should have a decision out of one, maybe all three of those. And that might not sound too soon. Litigation moves extremely slowly. It's to the great frustration to people kind of waiting for results. But I would note that it's also a great frustration to us, as we have to go through the process. And then we have a fourth challenge here. It's a challenge to New Jersey's suppressor ban. So New Jersey can't own a suppressor, even if you follow the taxing and registration of the National Firearms Act, you just can't own a suppressor. So we're challenging that one as well.
So in the state of Iowa, they have an Iowa Code section 724. The very first item, 724.1, is a list of what they call offensive weapons. And everything that's on the NFA list was on there. Now, over time, most of those have been chipped away and removed. But machine guns, as you know, while they're federally legal and regulated, are specifically outlawed in Iowa. I don't know if some sort of suit needs to be drawn. I was really hoping that the legislature would act, knowing that they're way outside of line with what's going on nationally and what has always gone on nationally. But with what we're seeing court cases move and the ebb and flow of things, I was really kind of hoping that they would bring Iowa code in line with obviously the Constitution, but with court cases and whatever else. And we haven't seen them do that yet. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that I want to run right out and create a suit, but I'm wondering at this point, if the legislature absolutely will not act, what's left? Because, I mean, I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, well, I wasn't happy at the moment when I saw that suppressors may die on the vine. And then it got changed into what we saw signed through Trump's big, beautiful bill. And then I thought to myself, wow, if there's no tax, what is the justification for this? Now, I wasn't smart enough in the law and the case back in 37 until I started reading about it to understand. But I have to wonder, was that happy coincidence? Was this happenstance? Or are you suggesting that there might have been a little method to the madness there?
Well, that's a good question. It's
don't get yourself in trouble if you're not at liberty to say. You can take off. But I thought to myself, that's pretty brilliant, because it's a fantastic foundation for this lawsuit, and I assume that gives it a great deal of credibility and potential. I don't know how to gauge that. You may, but I always am concerned about lawsuits because of the risk. But it sounds pretty solid to me. It really does.
Yeah, that was certainly, I guess I'll just speak for myself and say it was on my mind as I was watching things play out that leaves the registration requirements very vulnerable to lawsuits. And I think the other side recognized it as well. Was that, I might be wrong, I think it was Senator Murphy who wanted to put it at $1 after it had passed. He wanted to adjust it and put it at $1. So there was some tax, some justification arguably for the registration requirement. So I suspect it was well recognized that this leaves the registration requirement extremely vulnerable to a challenge, because the Constitution provides limited enumerated powers to what the federal government can do, and there's no other justification for requiring the registration of personally owned weapons.
Interesting. So let me share here real quick. I have it. I'm going to add to our stage here, NRA ILA's website. And for those of you listening, rather than watching, it's NRAILA.org. And so you can find up to the moment information. Oh, by the way, is it inappropriate? I can edit this out. I've never had to do this before. I've never edited anything out but swear words or my own silliness. Is it okay to mention the new NRA app, or are we there yet?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's out. I'm not a very tech savvy individual myself, but I was able to manage. I downloaded. It's very easy. I went on the App Store, typed in NRA. It's the first thing that came up, and downloaded it. And it seems great. I think they're still making improvements as far as I've been kind of overheard people talk about. So there's going to be more. It's going to be getting better and better even within the next few weeks. But yeah, you can jump on the app and see what's going on. Constant updates, and yeah, I'm very happy with it. Again, as somebody who's not super up to speed on how these things tend to work, but I think it's great. You just jump on and see what's going on. You can type in your state and see what's going on around you. You can find events around you. I'm personally impressed with it for what that's worth.
Now, keep in mind, it's brand new. It's only been out just a week or two, maybe just a week, but let's see here. I hopped on, put in my name. I needed to know my member number. So not everybody has that at their fingertips. You might not need your membership card, or maybe if you've lost that, you might have to call in. But and you can find those numbers through navigating the NRA or NRA ILA, whatever. But and going through the tabs to find your way. But I wanted to pull this screen up here again. This is NRAILA.org, because this is typically where I have gone in the past. Now I'll be using the app too, to look at some of these things. So right here, Supreme Court review sought an NRA-backed challenge to California's magazine ban. I'm walking through here and I'm seeing a lot of really favorable stuff and interesting rulings come out. I mean, Joseph, you must be a busy guy.
Yes, I am, but certainly not alone in ILA in that regard. One thing, when I came over I've been at NRA just over 2 years now, 2 years, 2 weeks. And one thing I was really taken aback by is how passionate, I know this isn't where you're going with the question, but just passionate, how much people really care. There's just an army of people here that just really, really care. They are not here just kind of waiting out the clock to finish their day and go home. It's a lot of people who are really, really passionate about the right to keep and bear arms, and gun people themselves, and really impressed. So yeah, I'm working very hard, but it's always easier to do when you have a bunch of people around you who are working really hard. But yeah, we have over 40 active lawsuits, I believe, and then
wow.
And then we filed the last 2 years. We've been the most active at filing amicus briefs. I think we had 15 2 years ago that we filed, and then 20 last year. And those are briefs that you file when it's not your case. It's somebody else bringing the lawsuit. Then there's a window for you to jump in and then file, a brief into the case and tell the court why, how you think the court should rule and why. And they add a lot to the case. And I'm not just saying that for our briefs. When we have our cases and people file briefs, we're very appreciative. But it's an opportunity to jump into cases that aren't ours. So we have dozens that are, we are actively litigating. And then pretty much any other case out there that we see, we take the opportunity to file these briefs and then kind of make ourselves active in those cases so that we have some say in everything that's going on across the country.
I need to realize that this is the first time that you and I have ever actually spoke that I can recall. And I hope that I'm not disrespecting you by saying that. If we've had a conversation I forgot about, it's my apologies. But I talk with a lot of folks at NRA. I talk with a lot of folks at ILA, and it's routine. I mean, it'd be rare that on a daily basis, sometimes Saturday and Sunday too, that I'm not visiting with folks there back and forth. And as you and I talk, I wanted to tell you thank you for the collaborative way that ILA and NRA is approaching things. I think it's really, really smart to be in league with other Second Amendment groups and combine your forces, combine your knowledge, and stockpile your ammunition together for some of these things. I think that it's really, really smart. I have often had disagreements with people, although I'm a member of tons of Second Amendment organizations. I have always been pleased about the way that NRA has carried themselves and ILA has carried themselves in reflection of others. I don't remember them getting after other gun groups and publicly shaming or going after them. So I like the idea that you're working together and that it seems like there's room under the tent for other people to help get this thing done. I mean, you kind of say a rising tide floats all boats. And I think about that a lot when I talk with people from ILA, because it hasn't been that many episodes ago. We had on John Comerford, and you probably know his story, Joseph. If you don't, I mean, I'm sure you do. But what you talk about humble beginnings, the guy worked on a fishing trawler, when he was in college, back and forth. So I think that sometimes Joe Blow, Main Street, average NRA member doesn't understand quite who's working for them, but they're usually folks just like them. They're former neighbors, and they just don't know that, So I don't know. Is it inappropriate to ask you your story?
Oh, no, not at all. And I will say, I think John's a perfect representative of NRA members. He's just the most down-to-earth, kind of hardworking, gritty type guy that you can find. He's not. I think when people think of certain leaders at NRA, maybe historically they've been almost like an untouchable type presence, almost like a larger than life. It's been presented. And John's just this wonderful, good, hardworking, kind of down to earth guy that, the average member, I think, could just have a drink with and, get along great. He's I think, exactly what we need right now for whatever that's worth. But yeah, my story, I started working, I've been in the Second Amendment space for, I got to see what year it is now. I think 13 years now. I started in law school. I was fortunate. Dave Kopel, one of the all-time great legal scholars in the Second Amendment field and all of American history, was a professor at my school. I'll keep it short. I tried in my final year there. I thought I could just sit in, but my schedule didn't allow me to take his class. I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I have 50 minutes here before my class starts. Maybe I can sit in on his each day, because that's when he was teaching the Second Amendment course. And they would not allow me. He would, but the school would not allow me to. I was surprised by. And so anyway, he's like, well, we want to start doing some research projects, that kind of stuff. So I did that. And that, fortunately led to writing stuff together, bigger research projects, working together daily. I mean, we've been working together just about daily now at this point for 13 years, which has been incredible. You couldn't ask for a better guy to come into the field and start working under his supervision. So started doing research articles, law review articles, that kind of stuff. Worked on a Colorado Magazine ban case with him starting, I think that was 2013. And then he connected me after a couple years there with Second Amendment Foundation, started writing briefs. I was doing a lot of family law to actually pay the bills, but I was coming home and working just as many hours, in the Second Amendment field, trying to prove myself. And then was doing that for a while. And then 2019, I started working at Firearms Policy Coalition. And then up till 2024, started working here at NRA.
That's a lot of Second Amendment work. Before I forget here, and I don't mean to jump around too much, but I'm on ILA's site and I'm going down through here, and I didn't notice this until more recently. Know your state's gun laws. We at IFC get lots of questions. I'm an IFC member. I am going to take a vacation. I'm traveling through X, Y, and Z state. What do you know about them? And this is the kind of place that you need to go. Go to NRA ILA's site, know your state's gun law, and then hit the little pull down button. Type in the state you're interested in and let it start doing the work. Because if you want to see what's going on in that state, you can get an overview real quick. And I think that's pretty slick. I'll move back to that screen real quickly. First of all, thank you for giving us a little bit of your background. Were you a Second Amendment kid when you were growing up, or did you do any of that stuff?
No, not so much. Certainly never against it, but grew up in a suburb, different, I guess, various kind of places around Cleveland, Ohio, but not really the past 20 years been out in rural areas out west and in the mountains and stuff. So not the environment I'm in currently, it's just kind of baseball, basketball, football kind of stuff. And not the hunting and fishing that has fortunately kind of consumed my free time over the last couple decades here. But just I always appreciated just it's easy to recognize, even if you're not a gun owner yet, the importance of the Second Amendment, that it, as James Madison said, the other rights, everything else, the other limitations are just parchment barriers, just words on paper. I think it was Justice Scalia liked to point to North Korea's got this wonderful constitution. It's got a right to leisure, a right to relax, it has all this stuff. But of course, there's nothing to prevent the government from violating it. So they don't actually have the ability to relax there. So I was always, I guess, perceptive enough. I don't think you need to be too perceptive to understand that the Second Amendment's what holds everything in place. Everything else you can't enforce, can't prevent the government from doing if you don't have that right to keep and bear arms.
When you have something that says that this is a pre-existing right, and oh, by the way, it isn't a description of what confines you as the individual. It's a description of what confines the government. That's rare. You don't see that in many places anywhere in America, and you certainly don't see it in places outside of America. We've got some guests lined up for this program that are from overseas. And I've got a acquaintance I just made from London. You may have heard about this. He traveled over here. Let's see, and he was touring around. I think just vacationing. He went to one of these places in Florida where you can rent machine guns and stuff and go to a shooting range or whatever else. And he did a few of those things. And I think he must have handed somebody his phone or whatever else. And you can tell. He's a rookie, by the way that he handles the firearm and the video of himself. He wasn't ready for it. Anyway, he takes some video of himself enjoying some firearms, travels back to the UK, posts the video, and the cops show up at his door and arrest him. Not because he's done anything wrong in America, but because that apparently is some sort of crime there for him to have done it and posted it, because it might be considered a hate crime or something or whatever else and bother somebody else. Them having seen it as neighbors of his puts them over the edge or whatever. So there are people out there that don't enjoy this fundamental nature that the Second Amendment provides. And I will tell you this. IFC has put together what we call candidate files now, where we're interviewing people that are running for office and people that want to be in front of the Second Amendment community. And we're using the Second Amendment as a litmus test. No more, no less. I mean, Joseph, it's that simple. If you can't get the Second Amendment right, you may not be well suited for public service. And I mean that in every sense.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good approach. I think there's a lot of as far as I understand it, single issue Second Amendment voters. There's a lot of people who that's what matters most to them, and they're not going to vote for somebody who's not defending at a minimum and hopefully advancing the right to keep and bear arms. So I appreciate that litmus test if that's helpful.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, I'll wrap up on the website itself, but I wanted people to know about it and go there. I'm zipping down through the news, and there's everything's up to date. You can check it out by section, by state, frequency, search terms, whatever else, what's trending. And that's just the stuff that's on the landing page. So I really appreciate that. It's a tremendous resource. It's obvious it's free to everybody. So go there and use it and the whole 9 yards. But I'm interested to see where the app goes. And what it does and doesn't do, because I think that it lends a lot of ease and speed, because a lot of people are using those devices right there in their hand all the time. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
What was the other thing that I was going to ask you?
I'm sorry, can I make just a quick plug here for the litigation? Yeah. If you check out NRA-ILA.org/litigation, then you see a list of all the cases, everything we're up to. So I just wanted to throw that out there if you're specifically interested in the lawsuits we have going across the country. We do our very best to keep that up to date. And then you can click on the cases. It lists the cases. Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Lists the cases, and then you can click on them and, see where they're at.
Wow. Man, you're schooling me. I usually am better prepared than this. I didn't know that this was underneath there, or I hadn't navigated there in a while. That's some amazing stuff.
Thank you.
NYSRPA v. James?
Yeah, that's a challenge New York's Bruin response law. It was initially Bruin 2. It was NYSRPA versus NYSRPA versus Bruin. Now it's James. But yeah, that's still at the district court, but moving along quickly, finally, after years of a little bit of a delay.
I see that. Interesting. Barnett v. Raoul.
Yeah, that's our challenge to Illinois' so-called assault weapon and magazine ban. That's been up. We won twice at the district court, enjoying the ban. The first time the Seventh Circuit reversed it, went back down to the district court, and then we were victorious again. And oral arguments in that case at the Seventh Circuit must have been in September of 2025. So we should be getting a ruling soon. And the arguments went actually quite well. So you can't always predict accurately how the court's going to rule based on argument, but a lot of times you can, and that went well. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that one.
Rody v. Bonta. I know Kim.
Yeah, and you know what? That one, I'm glad you brought that one up. That will be argued, although this might be released on the day it's argued. This will be argued tomorrow. It might be today to the viewers. I hope I didn't spoil anything there, but
no, go ahead.
So that we won, I think, at every stage of this case so far. This is a challenge to California's ammunition background check requirement. Every time you buy ammo, you got to undergo a new background check, costs all sorts of money, of course, and it's all just to deter people from or price them out of being able to purchase ammo. And we won that at the district court. I think it was sent back from the Ninth Circuit without a ruling, one at the district court again, and then one at the Ninth Circuit before a 3-judge panel. And then, as almost always happens, I think every single time but one, if you win at the Ninth Circuit, at the 3-judge panel, they take it en banc. Always before in the past to reverse it, but we drew a pretty decent panel this time. We have, I think there's 8 Republican appointed judges and 3 Democrat appointed judges, and not all they don't all vote how you kind of align with the party they were appointed, president of the party they were appointed by. But that's a pretty good start for the Ninth Circuit, which where the Democrat appointed judges significantly outnumber the Republican appointees. So I'm optimistic about that, and that oral argument will be on Wednesday, must be the 25th. And I invite everyone to tune in and listen to it. And if this comes out after the argument takes place, then the recording will be up. We'll post it on our social media, so you can find it there.
I'm seeing here SCI v. Bonta. What's the SCI acronym? Who is that?
I'm glad you asked about that case as well. So that's Safari Club International. Very good friends of ours. Love Safari Club and the people that work there. Wonderful organization. And so that we actually had some good news on yesterday. So that was a challenge. California passed this law preventing and severely punishing with like $25,000 fines each time you do it, prohibiting firearm advertisements of firearm related products that might be attractive to minors. And they don't explain what that means. So it was one example I think that was ever provided was if you use too bright of colors, use some bright colors in your, advertising for some, it doesn't even have to be a firearm, but firearm or some related product, then you get a $25,000 fine. And I think it could have been interpreted that, let's say you distribute a magazine and it has such an advertisement in there, it's $25,000 fine on top of however many magazines you put out there. So this was a terrible law. And fortunately, so we defeated this at the Ninth Circuit, and then it went back down, and then the state, we kind of fought over, we said the whole law is enjoined by the Ninth Circuit, and they said no, only half the law, and then fought over that for a while. Ultimately, the Ninth Circuit said, no, we meant what we said, that this whole law is enjoined. And then we filed a stipulation that was entered just by the court yesterday on Monday, the 23rd, where the state agreed that the entire law is unconstitutional, and then they agreed to pay all of our attorney fees, nearly $500,000 in attorney fees that we've incurred, defeating the law and then fighting over how much of the law was defeated. So that was a very good response. And I appreciate that you mentioned that one.
Well, I'm going down through here and I'm looking at some of these things. In California alone, you got Duncan v. Bonta, Rody, SCI, James. I mean, and James was the one over where basically we're outlawing Glocks and everything like them. You know what I mean? And so when I look at these things, I say to myself, well, you just about have to be ignorant and silly to be a lawmaker in California and push these things forward. But I'm not, and some of them may be ignorant and silly. Joseph, they might be, but I think a lot of them aren't ignorant and silly. I think a lot of them simply don't care. I think that they think, don't know this definitively, but it appears like they believe they can do anything that they want because there's no skin off their nose. I can push through any unconstitutional, silly, dumb stuff that I want to, because it isn't going to make a nickel's worth of difference to me. If I get what I want, great. If I don't, then somebody else, the taxpayers, pay to defend it. You know what I mean? Is there ever going to be or a way to curtail that idea? Because it appears to me like these folks are out of line with absolutely nothing that's going to bind them short of being unelected. And in some cases, that's a stretch.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was kind of boasting there that California has to pay $500,000 to NRA for attorney fees, but I mean, really, it's the taxpayers of California that are going to have to pay. And I guess if I could provide some consolation, at least that money is now going to go towards fighting more gun control in courts rather than enforcing and inventing new gun controls through the legislature. So that's any consolation. But yeah, it's too bad because these people, I think they understand at least a lot of these things, or they don't care that these laws are unconstitutional. They just don't like guns and they want to target them however they can. And then if we defeat them, in court, then they go and try to pass a new one. I don't know that there will be a way to, qualified immunity protects these officials typically in the course of their occupation there. So I'm afraid we just need to vote in some, the simplest solution is just voting in, like your litmus test that you were talking about. Make sure you have people who really respect the right to keep and bear arms, and before you provide them your vote, and make sure, you do what you can to get them into office.
Yeah, no kidding. I ran across this quote. It had been a number of years since that I had pondered it. And I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name. I'm assuming he's French, which means I'll butcher it. But Alexis de Tocqueville, or...
Oh, yeah, de Tocqueville.
Yeah, okay, de Tocqueville. Okay, the American Republic will endure until the day Congress discovers that it can bribe the public with the public's money. This appears to embody exactly what we're talking about. When these people say, well, and it's one thing for you and I to wander off the reservation here a little bit and talk about spending or collecting taxes and then using them towards the purposes of getting elected and staying elected. That's one thing. But this really is a scenario where they're using the public's money to do whatever it is they want, knowing that it doesn't actually come out of their hind end. That $500,000 that they're having to pay back for attorney's fees, that doesn't come from lawmakers that knowingly made bad decisions, that knowingly said this is crap policy and I don't care. It doesn't come out of their hind end. You know what I mean? It doesn't raise a welt on their fanny. And unlike judges that get overturned and have decisions that look not favorable on them for making a poor decision, unlike that, legislators are lauded. They don't appear to suffer in any way from making really, really bad mistakes or really, really bad policy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I like speaking of de Tocqueville, he was very prescient. And I was just thinking of another quote he had where he warned, it's Democracy in America is his book. And it's fascinating. I think it was 1838. He published it. He came over to America, and it's really neat because he praises so much that's good about it, but he has an unbiased view. And another warning was that America, we'd become so obsessed with equality that we no longer pursue or celebrate excellence, which took a little time, but I think you could argue that eventually came true. But yeah, it's just a matter of, I think, again, voting in, I don't think Governor Newsom's going to lose too much sleep over. He's not going to be happy about the result, but it's not coming out of his pocket, this California ruling. And until they're held accountable, and who knows how much support they're getting from, let's say, gun control groups or advocates, that maybe they're not just terribly concerned about the humiliation of losing in court. And in some of these courts, they've allowed these legislatures to get away with, I think, probably much more than they should. And that emboldens them. that emboldens them as well. They think, oh, if you pass a gun control law in California, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to get away with it. And the Supreme Court, I wish they would do a better job of holding the lower courts accountable when they let them get away with it. One example, you mentioned that Duncan case. That's our challenge to California's magazine ban.
Yep.
And just clearly unconstitutional. I think I mentioned earlier that the Supreme Court has said arms that are in common use are protected, can't be banned. There are hundreds of millions, over 500 million of these magazines, and courts are twisted, bending all over trying to find a way to say these are not common. The Ninth Circuit, what they said most recently is these are not arms, and that's up at the Supreme Court. We've been litigating that for, I think, over a decade now. Up at the Supreme Court right now, it's been relisted. Yesterday it was relisted maybe the 9th time. They've been keep considering it again and again, conference after conference, but hopefully the Supreme Court decides that's the case where they're going to step in and really hold these lower courts and legislatures accountable.
They don't want people like me as judges, because if somebody came to me and said, I'm making the argument to you that these magazines aren't in common use, I would say, no, that's wrong. The only magazines that aren't in common use are these low capacity things that you've dictated. The standard capacity stuff, like my 15 round magazine and a Glock 19, that is common. This 9 or 10 round nonsense that you're forcing people to do in this little state and that little state in this little way, those are uncommon. So if you want to ban something, ban low capacity stuff. The standard capacity stuff is mainstream, and you're right to have made that argument. And I'm going to help you understand what that argument actually means. Since you're looking through the wrong end of the telescope, let me help you out. So they don't want me as a judge, I assure you, and they'll never get me as a judge. But regardless, go to the website, nraila.org, check those things out. Tons of information, more than I realized. So I appreciate you schooling me on that. What other things are, well, I know that you're unwise to give us a sneak peek on things that inherently need to stay hush. And I understand that. I can respect that. But is there anything coming down that we need to know about that we'd be wise to look forward to?
Yeah, certainly. I'm trying to think which one. We have a lot of cases we're preparing now. I think it's going to be our most active year ever as far as new lawsuits. We're certainly on pace to file, break our own personal record for new challenges filed. I guess the ones that we've been quite vocal about already that you can look out for pretty soon here. Our challenges, Virginia, it certainly appears that they are going to, the governor is either going to sign the assault weapon and so-called assault weapon and large capacity magazine ban, or just let it become law without her signature. She's trying to pretend to be a moderate. I don't think she'll be able to keep up that illusion after letting this severe ban, really broad ban, become law. But we are going to challenge that. We have federal and state lawsuit challenging that ban, prepared, ready to file as soon as it does become law. So,
which state is that?
Oh, I apologize, Virginia.
Okay, all right, yes, of course, all right.
Yeah, so
it's ugly there. It's real ugly. It got ugly real quick.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I mean, it's a shame when these really important rights are restricted anywhere. But Virginia is, for at least two special reasons. First, like Massachusetts, these kind of origins of liberty and freedom and all that. It's just heartbreaking to see it turn into a state like, I don't know, New York or California or something. I mean, that's really where a lot of these brilliant ideas were expanded on from by our great founding generation. And it's also too bad when states like abruptly become restrictive. These people enjoyed freedom, and they're understandably really, really upset out there in Virginia, and Colorado went through something like this recently. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you live freely and safely. They were some of the safest, safer states, and really no reason for these restrictions, but certain people come into office and then all of a sudden you're living as if you're not much of a free person anymore. And it's really kind of tragic to witness, to see. And so we're hoping we can come in there and stop this. These will be the first lawsuits challenging Virginia restrictions, and I fully anticipate there will be more to come.
Fantastic. So what's percolating? You talked in some of these cases about what's percolating in various courts and when some of these rulings may come down. So is it going to be a pretty darn busy spring and summer, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, very, very busy with new lawsuits. And then we have some decisions we're waiting on. I mentioned the Illinois so-called assault weapon magazine ban case, Barnett versus Raoul, which I'm think should be coming out within a couple months here. And then we have we have two cases before the en banc Third Circuit in New Jersey. The first is a challenge to I think they call them assault firearms in New Jersey, but same thing, assault weapon ban and 10 plus round magazine ban. And that one, New Jersey's become a pretty favorable court, certainly relative to a lot of these other courts across the country. And so I'm really hopeful. I think that one and that had argument in October, I think early October, and seemed to go very well. So optimistic about the Third Circuit ruling. That case is Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs versus Placken. And then we also have a challenge to New Jersey's Bruin response law. So after Bruin held there's a right to carry, the same states typically that had the May issue licensing regimes that were struck down responded to Bruin by just saying, well, okay, you can carry and get a permit, but you can't carry in a sensitive place, and every single location in public is sensitive. And so those have sadly been upheld, and typically, for the most part, at least in the states that have had them. But that one's before the en banc Third Circuit as well. So we're hoping to get a good result there.
So you're doing this all as in-house counsel. Are you having to hire many people or work with folks outside of ILA circles in order to get all this done, or how does that work?
Oh yeah. I'm able to rely on quite some really good, smart people. So we have outside counsel. Some of the cases I handle maybe with a team myself. We have waiting period. Case if we were successful in validating New Mexico 7-day waiting period in Ortega versus Grisham, that's when I'm working. Actually, a counsel on the case along with lawyers from Mountain States Legal Foundation and lawyers from Clement Murphy came in and have been helping out a lot in that case. And then there's some cases like the Florida. We have a challenge to Florida's 3-day waiting period where it's kind of the same team over there. And then some cases like the NFA cases I mentioned, the 3-pronged kind of attack there, we hire Cooper and Kirk, outstanding lawyers. We're really fortunate. A lot of top firms are not willing to work on Second Amendment type cases. It's just too either they just don't like the Second Amendment, or it's just too kind of politically perilous. But we are very fortunate to have some of the best lawyers in the country who are willing to work on it, including Cooper and Kirk, Clement Murphy, and a lot of the team of lawyers we have. So it depends on a case-by-case basis. And then also it's been really fortunate. You mentioned earlier that we've been teaming up more with other organizations to bring cases, which has been really helpful because when we strategize, like nobody's perfect. Not every strategy I have for how we should present this argument, what we should challenge is the best one. So then you have somebody, as long as you respect each other, you have someone, which is the case, you have somebody at the other organization who might be like, this approach is better. And then you debate it and you come up with the one that the group decides is better. And so strategically, it's been really helpful as far as bringing better cases. And also, for what it's worth, I don't think members want to see, like, nobody's donating to a Second Amendment organization, a gun rights organization, to see them go attack another gun rights organization. I don't think, like, they want to see us actually advance their rights. They don't want to see, snarky tweets or whatever and aimed at bringing down other people who are fighting for our rights. So my mindset here is pretty much that, if you are devoting your life and career to advancing our Second Amendment rights, our right to keep and bear arms, then, that's someone I respect and want to work with. So that's been really helpful because we can bring more cases, if you're paying a quarter of the case, because you got 3 other groups who are covering a quarter, then that's 4 times as many lawsuits as you can do. And you don't have stuff like that Illinois case, which was filed many years ago now when groups weren't working so well together. The Illinois assault weapon magazine ban challenge, there's like 7 cases all consolidated. So we're all like paying for our own cases. And it's just a lot of resources going into challenging one law that we could have, in hindsight, might have been better off joining in together from the start and then putting that money towards challenging other laws, either in Illinois or outside of Illinois. So yeah, I'm fortunate, work very hard and doing my best, and but very, very fortunate to have a whole bunch of people that I can work with and rely on.
Have you argued before the Supreme Court before?
No, I would not argue before the Supreme Court. It's just too big. The Second Amendment is just bigger than me. Like, it would be wonderful to answer, when I'm asked a question like that, it'd be wonderful to be like, yes, I have, it'd be very impressive, or I could tell my kids and grandkids about it someday. But the Second Amendment means too much. You don't want me arguing. There are people who are really good at that. And we would hire the best person we could find to take a case when it gets up to the Supreme Court. For example, NRA hired Paul Clement, argument, in the Bruin case and previous cases, but the NYSRPA versus Bruin case, went and found the lawyer. Arguably, you can debate that all day, but has the most arguments in front of the Supreme Court, I think, of any living attorney out there. And somebody like that would do a much better job than I would. So as fun as it would be to talk about the experience, it's not best. The Second Amendment's bigger than I am.
He seems pretty quick on his feet.
Yes. Yeah. What's amazing, he memorizes the record. There can be thousands of pages of the record, and he just memorizes it. Like, it's astonishing. They'll bring it up, and he goes up there with no notes, and he can just tell you what's on like each page. It's really astonishing. I couldn't do it.
Some people have that ability. I have used I had to use an attorney out in California for something once personally, and a friend of mine says, my buddy Dave Halbrook says, "Oh, you need to use Sean Brady." And I'm like, "I don't know if I know that name." He says, "Yeah, you do." So I'm like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Yes, you do. And here's why." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, I know that name." So Sean helped me real quick. Of course, for him, that's a few keystrokes and it's all good. But I've seen some of these guys and visited with a handful. But when I watch some of these recordings, it's pretty interesting to see how sharp they are and how much you'd have to know, how much research, how much practice you'd have to go to in terms of preparation to stand up there and say, "I'm willing and able to make an argument for all time. That this is so much bigger and more important than myself, and I'm willing to take on this monumental responsibility." They've either got to be very sure of themselves or maybe a little crazy too. I don't know, but I'm glad somebody can do it.
Yeah, same here. We're very fortunate, as I mentioned, to have some of these really good lawyers. The ones, Clement Murphy, Cooper, and Kerr. I could go on. I probably shouldn't name any because then I'll feel bad for not naming all of them. But top Supreme Court litigators who are willing to take on our work and make us as effective as we are.
Fantastic. All right. What kind of items here, and having you on today again, thank you. What kind of items have we not covered that you think we should have?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was pretty very good questions, very thorough, covered just about everything I was hoping to. I guess I would just encourage people to keep tabs on what we're doing. We're working very hard and want people to know it, because the more that people know it, the more willing they are to donate, and that allows us to do more of it. So we're doing as much as we possibly can, and we'll continue to do so.
Fantastic. My parting question here is this, and I'm not trying to be gotcha, but it might be a little bit. Sometimes as a career-long sales guy, or at least sales guy at heart anyway, I remember going into a lot of people's offices and sitting on the side of the desk that had multiple chairs rather than one, right? So I would sometimes ask these folks, help finish this sentence for me. I wish I had, and then fill in the blank, because a lot of times I could find out what this customer or what this person needed that they weren't being helped with or weren't being provided, a way I could manage their concerns. And so when I asked that open-ended question, sometimes they would give me the key to the city, and they would tell me, "Listen, this is really what I need, and I've been struggling with this all day today. I would like for this problem to be gone." And a lot of times I was able to do that and monetize it. Now, what I'm asking you for is the same type of thing in terms of our advocacy and our engagement. So what did you need today that you didn't have, Joe?
Well, I guess it kind of goes back to my last response. It's just always a shortage of, I mean, we do as much as we can afford to do, and NRA spends, I'm confident in saying, more than anyone else, any other organization out there on Second Amendment litigation, but we still have a ceiling. So more funding, more donations. I hate to kind of put it that way, but every time we file a lawsuit, there's a lot of people who are happy, but then there's others who are like, how about this over here? How about this one over there? And we would do them all if but we have to decide which battles to choose based on which ones are most urgent, what the best timing is for it. And so, yeah, those donations are kind of the answer to any holdup we have here, in that we can just turn around, file a lawsuit, and perhaps the one that's really restricting you, impacting your daily life.
That's fantastic. I think about that a lot. What we can do if we have maybe just a few more bucks here and there. And I know there are people, just to give you an idea, we set up on IFC's site a way for them to donate to our organization and to our PAC. And there are people who make monthly donations now. They set it up and it's recurring. And some of these people you're just like you and me and anybody else. We all have a budget. Warren Buffett has a budget. It's much larger than mine, but everybody has a budget. And some of these folks will say, like, okay, I'm going to throw $10 a month in the kitty and I'm just going to let it ride. And then, and I have people say, well, that could add up to be a lot of money. I said, yeah, but oh, by the way, I don't think you can drive through McDonald's for $10 anymore. So $10 a month isn't that big a deal. Maybe if that's what you can give, so be it. There are ways I think we could all pitch into stuff like this. And my other thing is, and you didn't ask for it, but I think what might help, especially with the illustration of this app and going down through your site, you're going to go on there. I just went on there and saw things that I didn't recognize were there. And I ought to have known that, Joseph. So when I look at it, I'm like, I bet if I didn't know that, there are a heck of a lot of people I talk to that would care about this, that would benefit from knowing that. And I haven't shared that with them. So I think that's something, not only funding, but that's something we can do. Say, hey, did you know these resources and this communication and all this stuff exist? You probably should be checking this out routinely. I think that's something that I could help with. Yeah,
I appreciate that. And that's one thing that amazed me before I started at NRA. I've been a life member a long time, and been going to the annual meetings. I went to some board meetings or committee meetings and that kind of stuff, just as an interested member. And when I got here and kind of on the inside, I was like, I couldn't believe how much NRA's involved. They're everywhere. I guess we are everywhere. Really involved. Everything that it related to firearms across the country. We have a hand in it. It's amazing. It's amazing how much NRA does. So I'd encourage people to look into that, and perhaps we should do a little more talking about it, which is what I'm trying to do here as well. But it's an astonishingly important organization, and not just saying that because I'm fortunate enough to be a part of it.
I appreciate that. Joseph Greenlee from NRA ILA. Rattle off your title. Give us the whole thing.
I'm the director of the Office of Litigation Counsel.
Oh, what's the short version?
Litigation director is what I go with.
Joseph Greenlee, litigation director for NRA ILA. You can see those folks and see all their work. You can follow them on the app. You can find on the App Store for Android and Apple both. And also, excuse me, I had something bother me there. And also at NRAILA.org. So go there, check that out. As always, thank you. I really appreciate it. Joseph Greenlee, I appreciate your time today. Keep up the good work, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye now.